no rights and wrongs in goalkeeping.
Yeah.
And anyone that tells you different, I think, is not that open-minded.
Yeah.
No, but I'd catch that in the game. No, what we're going to do here is what you're going to offer up there.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I've learned as a coach is self-belief is huge.
Yeah.
Having that confidence in yourself is massive.
Yeah.
And constantly backing yourself. Because people can spice it up as much as they like. It's a round object. You're trying to keep it out the goal. And that's it.
Yeah.
That is it in a nutshell. But I would go to non-league games.
Yeah.
100%. And just watch the goalie. Stand behind the goal. Stand in line with the 18-yard box. Look at their starting positions. Look at what they do when the ball's at the other end.
Yeah.
Look at how they hold themselves. Try and be a match goalie and not training goalie. Try and educate yourself more. Get out of a training habit of just doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to accept to make mistakes. Yes, inside I'm going to laugh it off.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move on quick. There should be 1 or 2 things to work on. 15, 20 things you've done outstanding on.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Yeah.
Once you hit kind of 17, 18, the main things you're going to learn is within the game.
Yeah. So we're back for episode 7 of season 1 of Keeping It Out the Net, and today I'm really excited because this person's got so much knowledge, so much experience, and he's so passionate about goalkeeping. He played for the likes of Charlton, Cambridge, Welling, but he's also gone on to become a coach at Leyton Orient, Fulham, and most recently Boreham Wood, and he's been there and done it, and he's done it in playing, he's done it in coaching. He also runs his own goalkeeping business or school, Develop Goalkeeping, DG UK. He has the podcast, the TikTok, the online courses, works with a lot of young goalkeepers, older goalkeepers to help take them to the next level. So without further ado, I can only introduce you to the one and only Mr. Martin Brennan. Thanks for doing it, Martin.
No problem, mate.
So obviously they say you have to be crazy to be a goalkeeper, and only so many people can take the nature of the position. But what got you into goalkeeping in the first place?
Probably getting muddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you first start out, I think the joy of just diving around on the grass, not so much this day and age because a lot of the boys now and girls are on AstroTurf.
Yeah.
So the first buzz of diving around, getting muddy, it was kind of my turn. My grassroots team was a team called Grasshoppers.
Yeah.
So they gave me, it was my turn to go in goal. And whether they did it on purpose or not, but a few of the coaches like, oh, actually, you're all right.
Yeah.
And that little bit of self-belief as a kid kicks in, you think, yeah, maybe I am all right.
Yeah.
And whether that was their plan, just try and push me towards the goal and do that. But yeah, the opportunity come up, and to be honest, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. But I think flying around and diving for me is the initial get into goalkeeping, isn't it?
Yeah. Was there like a parent or like a role model that really got you into it even further?
I think, as I said, my team was Grasshoppers, and I think once you've made a couple of saves, I think when you start you start hearing things from parents and coaches, and they start going, "God, what's that?" And it builds you up.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a young person now, and you do play the position.
Yeah.
I don't think it takes much to get hooked on it.
No.
If people, it's like everyone loves to be G'd up, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, you're really good at that, aren't you? And all of a sudden you go, actually, yeah, maybe I am.
Yeah.
So I think the parents just encourage you and going, I think you've done really well.
Yeah.
The coaches, same thing, but just to have that little bit of G up, I think it gets you going. So.
And obviously you played professionally to a high level, but then obviously you went into coaching. More recently at Boreham Wood, had a really successful season this season. I have to ask, how was the Bournemouth trip and the Everton trip? How good was that at this stage of your career?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a really good experience. I was really excited for the younger players to be able to, for example, Kane Smith, one of our fullbacks, he's a massive Everton fan.
Yeah.
So to go there and play, was he playing in the National League week in, week out, and I don't think it enters the players' heads that potentially in whatever 4 or 5 months' time we're playing at Goodison.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really nice, pleasant surprise for them. But listen, the players done really well. They stuck together, and the manager goes into a lot of detail, so the players get a lot of information.
Yeah.
He doesn't leave anything behind. So not that I can say it wasn't a surprise for me, but
Yeah.
at some point I could see the club, with the way the manager's going, I could see the club going on a run like that.
Yeah.
And just hopefully, they can progress in the league as well and reach the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was a fantastic experience for the younger boys, definitely.
Yeah. And in terms of you now, obviously, you do at Boreham Wood. Obviously, you do your stuff outside of you do your own developed goalkeeping. What's your plan going forward? Is it to still keep going at Boreham Woods, still keep coaching? Is it to do more of your outside stuff? What's the next step?
Yeah, I mean, even I've always done outside bits.
Yeah.
Even my first actual session was when I was playing for Cambridge United. I set up a little group session in what was it called? Trinity College, I think.
Okay.
And there was the groundsman there called Trevor, who used to play table tennis for about 3 hours. Because once you finish training at 1, I had about 3.5, 4 hours to kill.
Yeah.
Till then, the kids come out of school and I can work with the kids.
Okay.
So that was my first ever centre running there. Now we're up to, I've got sort of 3 centres running from Loughton, Hertford and Waltham Abbey. There's a senior group that we run on a Wednesday night. The 1-to-1, 2-to-1s. We're now up to sort of 4 junior elite camps a year, residentials, 2 senior elite camps, the non-league camp. I did offer a pro camp, which obviously COVID smashed that out of the water a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're going to try and work and get back on board with that and just open another sort of flagship business, if you like, with the owners of Glove Glue.
Yeah.
So, which is really exciting, which is also called Developing Goalkeeping. We're opening the first event in August, 5th, 6th, 7th of August, which is called the Nationals.
Yeah.
That alongside the podcasts and we're running together, but yeah, I've always coached. I've coached for about probably 16 years now. But I've always had an ambition of running my own stuff.
Yeah.
And the ambition now is probably to take more events abroad.
Yeah.
That's probably the ambition and build the flagship business, if you like, with Port Glove Glue.
I mean, I came across yourself actually through Nathan Ashmore. Obviously, you coach at Boreham Wood, and I think he was saying about your attention to detail when it comes to coaching, and I think when I met you, that really rung true, and I saw it, and I really like that, because some coaches just gloss over things and some actually pay the attention to detail. We'll get onto the more technical stuff later on, but what would you say after all your playing career and even coaching up until now, what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself, and what have you become as a result of doing all of it?
I think what going into the jobs early as a coach, I think the insecurities of not being a Premier League goalie, an international goalie, and because then when I went into the coaching, you're doing a warm-up, say, I've had an opportunity to do like 10 games in the Premier League with Fulham, and you're looking at the other end and the goalie coach is there, your Tim Flowers, and some of these names are ridiculous. So the insecurities for me, looking at the other end, thinking, right, I've really got to offer something different here. I can't just, tag along and just, do what the others are doing. I've got to try and do as much as I can. And for me, it was just trying to, especially the training sessions, work out what actually happens in games. And let's really look in detail to what happens in games. And it's not reinventing the wheel at all, because people can spice it up as much as they like. It's a round object, you're trying to keep it out the goal, and that's it. That is it in a nutshell. But I've tried to educate myself on the tactical side massively, and the psychological side as well. I think the biggest thing I've learned as a coach is self-belief is huge. Having that confidence in yourself is massive, and constantly backing yourself. And I think if I'd had the belief and the confidence in my coaching career as if I did in my playing career, I probably would have played a hell of a lot longer. So learning about, for me, the psychological side of the game is massive. And listen, like you mentioned him there, working with someone like Nathan Ashmore, the guy's a different breed completely. And he'll make a mistake in training and he'll turn and laugh at me. That's his mechanism as how he works, And if it was me, 20 years ago making a mistake, I'd be a butt in the post. But he kind of accepts inside. He's confident and he's self-aware of how good he is. So he kind of laughs it off. So
I mean, the idea of these interviews is to kind of compress like decades of experience into a few days, and you can get that information quicker. I think the biggest thing I've learned this season is how important coaching is, and if you don't have it, you'll suffer because you'll make a mistake, you won't do something right in a match because you've not been constantly coached. But before we get into the mindset stuff, like what would you say, having worked with loads of professional goalkeepers, young kids, What would you say the biggest thing you've learned from them, coaching them? What would you say is the thing that stands out that makes a goalkeeper, outstanding?
I think to be able to accept that you're gonna make errors. That's a huge thing. Being at Wickham, there was a goalkeeper, Jamie Young, who's out in Australia, playing in Australia at the minute. And we play a game and come off, and he would be so full of confidence. And I remember we lost the game once at Huddersfield away, it was 6-0. And I'm thinking, if I come off the pitch now, I'm crucifying myself left, right, and centre. Youngie come off and he goes, "There's some really good things I've taken out there." And you think that's the difference, and working with like a Mark Schwarzer I'm not due to work close with Mark Schwarzer at Fulham. The Monday morning after the game Saturday, you wouldn't know whether he was man of the match. He'd had an absolute stinker of a game.
Yeah.
He was just a consistent person. So I think the best ones that I've worked with seem to be very consistent people, seem to be really assured of themselves, not so much of an arrogance. I've met the arrogant guys as well, who eventually get found out in some kind of way, painting over a lot of cracks. But for me, it's the work hard rate. It's making sure that you're being consistent as a person as well as your training, and actually working on stuff that's actually going to improve you. We can all go on YouTube now and watch so much stuff. That there's so much on there that you're not. Yes, you're going to get a sweat on, but you're not actually going to learn anything. So making sure that the goalkeepers have an open mind to go, all right, I'll have a go at that. We tried it. So a lot of training sessions can become quite experimental.
What's your take on, I think Nathan mentioned to me when I saw him, he was like, there was a game where you did literally just like one catch, one kick, because you weren't all about the drilling and the repetition, it was just about ticking over. Where do you stand? Like, do you like to do a lot of repetition in training, or is it just more about ticking over and paying attention to the technique, things like that?
I think I don't think there's a set way of doing something. For example, when I had the opportunity to work in the Premier League, you've normally got Saturday. So, which is a really nice looking week. When you're a goalie coach, you've got time. Say with Ashmore at Bourne Wood, you might have a Tuesday night game, then you've got the last 2 weeks has been something like Tuesday, Saturday, Monday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, or Sunday to finish the season off. So the recovery for me is more important than trying to get a quick 20-minute burst in. And I always believe that once you hit kind of 17, 18, the main things you're going to learn is within the game. And for me, what you're learning in a warm-up, you're learning the environment, the conditions. You're not learning about hand shapes. And so, put it this way, if I was to go back and play, I wouldn't be doing, I have to do 10 of these and I have to do... I think I'd just go, look, I'm going to see, if you're my coach, I'm going to see how I feel today. I might just adjust it. I remember working with Tom Heaton at Wickham. Tom used to adjust it sometimes. So it wasn't like, right, I have to do this. Because what he didn't want to do is, if we ever turn up late for a game, for example, and he hasn't ticked off them 10 things, of 10 of 10, for example, does that mean now that I'm not going to play well? So he's like, he trained himself into just going, as long as I can get little bits in, I'm happy. So, no, to water it down, I think it is important. But no, I don't think there's a set way. Especially, your real non-league guys that are playing, training Tuesday night, Thursday night, and a game on a Saturday. My advice always to them has been, try and work on the stuff that you're going to need to work on and you've learned from the game in a training session. Don't just go and do 20 minutes of basic handling. Because you're not. What are you learning from? Repetition. You will improve. But listen, let's be honest. You're going to be effective in games. That's going to get you to the next level. So the match is the business, isn't it?
Obviously, mindset is huge. It's probably the biggest part of it in the game. Whether that's criticism, setbacks, injury, things like that. To start with, sort of the pressure and making mistakes. I mean, I've got my personal experience. I'm sure you got your own experience. What's some practical advice you'd give to someone if they've just made a mistake and they feel really low and like they feel by themselves and they don't know how to bounce back? I mean, I had it myself the other week when I made my debut for my team. And you can do like loads of things right, but then you do one thing wrong, and that's what people sometimes remember, and that's what you remember. How do you bounce back from a mistake or a setback?
First thing is, the last thing you said there was you noticed on all the things you've done well, and then the one thing you didn't do so well. I would now completely turn that the other way around. So okay, there's something to work on, but look at all the positives. I think that's been a terminology for goalies for years and years, where I've done this well, but and then the but goes into something you didn't do great.
Yeah.
Why can it not be flipped the other way?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I might have done better with a goal, but my kicking was outstanding. My starting positions were good. I swept up back, at the back really well.
Yeah.
So I think language, and I do a lot of stuff with a sports coach, Rob Blackburn.
Okay.
I've known him for a long, long time. He works with a lot of professionals at the minute. He teaches me about language and try and change a language and adjust the language that you use. I love when the goals, especially young goalies, I love when they make mistakes in training. We make a massive thing of it in terms of moving it into a massive positive.
Yeah.
How good is that you've just let the ball through your legs in a park with no one around? What have you learned from it?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do this, or I didn't. Perfect. What a lovely way of finding out.
Yeah.
Instead of, well, let's now all stop. Let's spend 10 minutes on focusing on that one drop that you've just done, rather than, we've been working half an hour, 29 minutes, you've been immaculate.
Yeah.
But they've made one mistake, so I think my coaching philosophy has massively changed as well. Again, working with Rob and changing my language and the way I see things. Younger guys, I do especially on the residentials, I do a mistake cycle.
Okay.
So what happens is we've got the bubbles of you made the mistake, and then the next bubble is you feel terrible, you feel like you've let people down, and we work on what ones of these are truths, actual facts, and what ones are just the way you feel. And what it is, by the time you get back round to the start, people realise on the camp that so much of what they're doing is just a feeling.
Yeah.
So you assume the centre half's now battering you because you made a mistake. Well, you don't know that for certain.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, what we do, we replace these bubbles and just try and get back to the start again as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So I think it's a massive part of the game. I think coaches need to be educated as well.
Yeah.
I think coaches, especially at grassroots, need to realise, make a list of the 3-4 mistakes they've made at work that day.
Yeah.
And realise the kids are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And let's really embrace it and let's enjoy it. And I know it's tough. You're playing a cup final and you made a mistake, a so-called mistake in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's tough to deal with.
Yeah.
But I think I love when that happens, because when they're so young, because it takes the edge off when they start to get a bit older to go, actually, someone's going to shout at me or they're going to moan. But in a minute's time, no one's going to care, because all they're going to be focused on is themselves again.
Yeah.
So, I see it quite differently now.
And obviously, a really important thing to do is try and get to play men's football if you're a young goalkeeper, teenager coming up. You sort of said how you can go to one level, play it for a season, come back and then go out to the next level, keep going up and up. How important is it to try and get to men's football as soon as possible when you're a young teenager coming up the ranks?
So I set a loan structure in at Wickham and Fulham. The first time I trialled it and played around with it was at Wickham. We had a first team goalie, Nicky Ball, and then I had 3 younger goalies. I had all out on loan.
Yeah.
Jason Mooney, Steve Arnold and Matt Ingram. And then I had the under 16 goalie who stepped up to the under 18s. Okay. So on a Monday morning, I had 5 match analysis videos to go through, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it's like, right, let's get straight to the business end. What are we all offering in matches?
Yeah.
But the structure was, the minute they hit 17, I'm getting them out on loan. And the message to them is, you're going out to make loads of mistakes.
Yeah.
So go and enjoy it, go and embrace it, and go and mess up.
Yeah.
Of which when they leave, they're kind of thinking, I don't quite get this. After 3-4 games, they're starting to understand the reason they go.
Yeah.
I don't feel under 18s football and 23s football can offer that. If I'm honest, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't see the pressures of 3 points.
No.
So for me, at 17, I would. If you're at a club and you're doing a scholarship at 17, I'd be sending you straight out. And what level would you go at? For me, it wouldn't really make much difference.
No.
A lot of pro clubs try and pitch the goalies as high as they can with loans. I don't really agree with that.
Yeah.
I just think you're better off going, secure a level and go, do you know what? I've hit 25, 30 games there. I feel comfortable. I feel ready now to go to the next stage. So for me, around 17 and a half, I'd 100% be getting them out. Men's football.
What about injury? I don't know if you had any injuries yourself. I know Nathan was out for 4 or 5 months this season. What did you say to him, and how do you deal with injuries, like whether it's like a niggling long-term injury or just like an injury that wipes you out for a few months? How do you come back from that?
If we use Nathan as an example, the minute it happened, we both had a little bit of a meltdown because it's you get attached emotionally to the guys, and we kind of got through that, and then we just had a long phone call and went, right, what's the next 4 months look like for you in your life?
Yeah.
I said, what? And he asked me, and he said, what would you do? And I said, I'd improve my relationship with my wife. I'd improve my relationship with we've got a young little girl. I would focus on other things as well as trying to get yourself fit, because there's only so much you can control now in the football world where he's at.
Yeah.
An event. There was one point where he couldn't leave the house, and then he was allowed to get up and walk around.
Yeah.
It was a slow progression for him. So it's like, right, let's focus on a load of different things.
Yeah.
Life is about football for professional footballers, but there's times where they've got to stand back and go, right, where else can I improve my life? Where else can I, I think he set out like a date night every other week.
Yeah.
With his wife, and he took his daughter out a lot more. And not to say he wasn't doing it, but he was focusing really, loads more on that.
It's making the most of it. Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. And it's I've met players in the past that have gone the complete opposite way.
Yeah.
And have completely meltdown. They've gone real into a depression mode. I think the older you get a bit more mature, and you start sort of treasuring life a little bit more. So you go, right, where can I really take advantage for the next 4 months? So, yes, he was still focusing on and trying to get fit and doing the little bits, but just refocusing on different things can make a massive difference. And I remember his wife coming to the game, on the first game back, and she looked really happy. And I thought, that's nice. They've spent a lot of time together, and he's worked on it. So, listen, you should be doing that anyway, in my opinion, but it was more of a focus point for him.
What's some big things you suggest to do outside of the game? One thing I noticed about Nathan actually is he really worked on his body the last few years, and he's got super fit, looks the part. But in terms of psychology, like, what's some things you can do that you recommend outside of football? Like I did karate growing up, and that really helped me have some toughness. And my dad always said, if you're going to get roughed up in the box, then you need to be able to know you can handle yourself and all of that. But what's maybe some things that you would suggest maybe doing out? Is it like watching videos, or like is it having a mentor? Is it things like that just to keep you sharp?
Yeah, I think other sports, definitely. I highly recommend other sports. Just so you can feel and live through what they live through as well, and then you can compare some things. Things like life coaches and things I think are really important. I would also, the main thing I would do is have targets set in for your football career, and also your personal lifestyle as well. So whether it's, one of them might be you're going to eat better, it might be that you're going to take your partner out more, you're going to spend, for the older ones, more time with the kids. To have two separate goal settings for me are huge. Because I think a lot of footballers get in the habit of setting their goals on the pitch a lot. If they can improve off the pitch, 100% it will. Their performances will improve on. I'm big on watching games. I'm not a massive one for training sessions. Just because if we were going to look through something and I felt it was a little bit of an issue and we needed to focus on it, yes, we would film the training session and watch through that. But something I would definitely do is I would go to non-league games, 100%. And the reason I go is you can hear people, you can get right up close to them. So I would definitely recommend that. And just watch the goalie. Stand behind the goal, stand in line with the 18-yard box, look at their starting positions, look at what they do when the ball's at the other end, look at how they hold themselves. Tom Heaton isn't the tallest of, he's not the tallest of goalies, but his structure and the way he presents himself and his posture is unbelievable. So he looks 3 inches taller. Watch for things like that. I tend to find myself watching a lot of off the pitch stuff now and behaviours as well as the players on there. Because I think you can help them off. But I would definitely go to games if you can. Hasn't got to be Premier League games. I actually enjoy watching more non-league games than I do actually big games.
It's up close and personal.
Completely, and you can hear again, going back to the language. You can hear the language. How you're communicating to your left back. Are you absolutely nailing him? And you're going, well, he's never listening. But there's a reason you don't listen, because the way you're speaking to him, you know, you need to improve that. So I would definitely do that. I would look at their warm up. I would just people watch. It's like the Costa Coffee one, isn't it? When you're sitting back in the high street and just watching people go past. You know, so I'd recommend watching games.
I found it interesting. Obviously, Tay's been playing most of the season, and really, really good. I think he's my age, but nothing on him at all. But I noticed the difference when Nathan came back in last week. Obviously, that experience, the years of experience on him, shows, and that authority, just to see it, it showed straight away. And obviously, results turned around, but. Yeah, it just shows you how much modelling someone and seeing what can be done is important. But you can learn so much from different goalkeepers. That's why when I saw Tay play, I learned so many things, and then see Nathan play, learn other things. But I mean, what would you say? What would you say in terms of like? What would you say something you would look for in a goalkeeper if you were a scout, for instance, or if you were looking for a goalkeeper for a Boreham Wood? What are the main things you're looking for on the surface?
I think if I'm looking for example, if I'm looking for a Boreham Wood, I'm looking for someone that's quite stable, if I'm honest, in their personal life. Someone who is built up a nice profile for themselves, you know, along the pitch. That's got appearances. I'm not a massive lover of goalkeepers that go and play 4 games at that club, then 2, then 7, then you know, there's no truth behind that, but there's normally a bit of a pattern that will occur, and there's a reason behind there's 4 games, 2 games, 8 games. I do love seeing profiles where it's like 38 games, and then the next season it's 24 games. You know, there's a nice consistent level for it. But I think I'm looking for a 7 out of 10 for 46 games. That's what I'd be looking for. You know, I'm not a big believer of, you know, someone that can play a 9 out of 10, normally with a 9 out of 10. You know, if they're consistently playing 9 out of 10s, then Boreham Wood are not going to get that goal. You know, the odds are he's going to the Championship. So I believe if you can reach that 7 out of 10, that's consistent person on the pitch, consistent person off the pitch, and just an all-round, especially for Boreham Wood, an all-round game. You know, I don't think I'd ever recommend to the manager, look, he's a fantastic shot stopper, but, you know, crossing and kicking, he's not as effective. You know, I think you'll get found out in that league. I think you've got to try and have an all-round game as best you can. But I do look at off-the-pitch stuff as well. You know, are they 25, you know, are they 22, looking to get out and they want nights out all the time? Or are they a bit more set, you know, like an Ashmore's a lot more settled now. You know, he's got a family. So, I do look at a lot of the off-the-pitch stuff as well as on the pitch.
How do you define success? I mean, for instance, when I was young, I think when we're all young, we have dreams of playing for England or playing for a club. Like for me, it was playing for West Ham. And I think when you're young, you set them goals, but you don't realise what it really takes, and you don't appreciate the gravitas of how hard that is. And then obviously some people go down the academy path, some people non-league, and it's different paths, and equally both are hard because you get released, it's hard, but if you've never made it, you've got that desire to play for like a top club. But how do you define success when you get older? You know, like, because some people give up because they realise they're never going to achieve that goal. Yet they've got so much talent, and obviously you still need the passion.
Of course.
But how do you look at that? Like, how can you be realistic but not too pessimistic? You know, you still can set goals. Like, how can you accurately set goals?
The one massive advantage we've got in the UK is that you could play 7 leagues below the Premier League, and you could actually earn a living out of the game. And it might not be Ferraris and it might not be Bentleys but you could earn a living out of the game. You know, if you're a young guy, you might be able to find a 1-bed apartment, you know, get a cheap little run around car, and that's your lifestyle, and you're up and running. So the UK does offer that, which a lot of other countries don't. I think the older you get, like you said, that you start to hit, you know, things start to hit home a bit. You know, I used to support Chelsea. My dad was a Chelsea supporter, and the same thing. You think, oh, walking out the front, you know, Stamford Bridge. That's what I want to do. No one's going to get in my way. By the time I'm 21, sorted, done. You know, loads of money, sort all my parents out, and that kind of doesn't happen. But I think what would I class as success? I think if you've managed to stabilise a lifestyle out of the game, I think you've done incredibly well. I really do. And I try to encourage the parents of the young kids that, you know, we talk about academies a lot. which is fine. But people will drop in and out academies all the time. And if they, by the time they reach 19, are playing for, you know, your Waltham Abbeys, if you're 19 ever playing for Boreham Wood, you've done extremely well, in my opinion, from a goalkeeper's point of view. Like, extremely well, playing week in, week out. So I would say success for me is being able to, you know, create enough money out the game, and we're not talking 80,000 and 100,000. No. You know, we're talking about earning and it might be a Tuesday, Thursday night that you're playing. It's part time, and then maybe you're doing part time, you know, some building work or postman or whatever it is. You know, for me, that's I would class that as a success. Yeah, I really would.
I think if you can get it right, then you become a person. You're keeping fit.
Yes.
You become, like, if you're in business, you know, it prepares you for tough stuff in that. Or if you're working a job, dealing with people, and that's how I see it. You know, if you never quite make to the level you thought, well, at least you've become a better person for it, and you know you're in the loop with things.
Well, it's funny when you do two jobs. I remember being at Dagenham. There was a centre half, Tim Cole. He worked in the meat market, and he'd get home at stupid o'clock in the morning, right? Yeah. But looking back now, when he's in that dressing room, he has so many stories to tell, and all the lads were like all staring at you. Think, what a lovely life. I know he's not sleeping as much, but what a lovely lifestyle. How exciting's that? You know, that he's doing that, then he's coming in training, then he's got a couple more days working in the meat market, and then he might be playing, I don't know, Barnet away, so it's a nice ground, and you know, so he's got a lovely mix of a lifestyle. Yeah, completely. And it's not for everyone. You know, some people like the office job, 9 to 5, they know what you get. I've never been that way. I like a variety. I love that mix of variety. You know, so I think to be able to, just to be able to earn enough money if you can, for me that's a massive success. And, you know, non-league football for me is overlooked, like immensely. It really is, and everything's for Premier League, and there should be more non-league games on the telly. I honestly believe that.
I mean, I think there is more than ever. BT Sport nationally got big, but it's really important to promote it. But what would you say? I mean, I've learned, you know, over lockdown, I think we all spent a lot more time like watching things and going back and reflecting. But I was really looking at the noise of the world and some of the top goalkeepers, how the reason they stand out is because they're actively influencing the game as opposed to just reacting, just saving the shots. They're not just doing that. Where do you stand on, like, you know, if you're not necessarily inclined to be like a Neuer, should you try and make yourself like that so you're more, you know, good with your feet, you're coming out heading the ball if it's coming over the top? Can you make yourself like that if you're not really that good at that sort of stuff?
I think it's very much like an actor. You know, if you're really quiet and placid off the, you know, off set, if you like, or off stage, to get the next gig, they've got to be some kind of, you know, a lunatic, if you like. So they've got to act that out. And I do believe a little bit of that with goalkeeping and football in general. You know, I've never met Peter Schmeichel, but all you hear is off the pitch, he's the most calm guy, he's lovable to everybody. But on the pitch, completely different person. So for me, that's probably my best example. That I think you have to. I think you have to have an element of, people say be who you are. That's cool. I get that. But I think you've got to act out a little bit. You know, you're not going to go to a party and start screaming and shouting and telling them, "Get up!" And obviously, of course, you're not going to do that. But to offer that on the pitch to your team is going to affect the team in a massive positive way. So. I don't think I worked with Matt Ingram for a long time at Wickham. Matt is now, I think he's at Hull. He's playing at Hull at the minute. Matty was really, really quiet. You know, we're thinking, we're just not, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, he's so quiet, but his ability was unbelievable. You know, he was kicking the ball a mile, and he was shot stop. His handling was good. He come for crosses on his loans. But he obviously, as he went on the loans and he started to play more dressing rooms, meet more people, his personality started to naturally come out anyway. So it helped him. So I think the experiences and being in dressing rooms will help with that. I don't think it's the be or end all. No. You know, I've worked with, even if I take 10 goalies I work with, they're all completely different. Completely different. You know, I had a podcast last week with Scott Shearer, who played for Coventry, Bristol, Wickham. Absolute lunatic, like absolute crazy man. You know, in the dressing room, pulling people's trousers down, messing about. You know, and you think there's other goalies I've worked with, they're like, there's no chance they're doing that. Like, their headphones are in, they're focused, straight-faced. So they're all different, and I don't think there's a special recipe. I think as long as you offer the goods on a match day.
I suppose if you get in proximity with certain types of people, if you're quite shy and you're around a goalkeeper who is confident, that can only be a good thing in some way, as long as it's not too much for you.
Yes.
But putting yourself in the environments, like you say, is key.
Yeah.
In terms of technical stuff, I mean, I love some of the way you put things, and I think the biggest thing is, catch the ball more often than you do, because a lot of goalkeepers, I watched Adrian, the West Ham goalkeeper, now Liverpool, he used to like parry things all the time, and I'd watch that a lot, and then I'd start doing it.
Yeah.
But if you look back years ago, a lot more goalkeepers held on to the ball. Like how do you do that? Is that just like constantly reminding yourself and actually pushing yourself? Because obviously the fear is that if you try and catch it, then you might not quite catch it, and it's a bit fumbly. Is that just more training? Is it just more getting someone to tell you more?
I think it's a little bit of studying.
Yeah.
When I was at Wickham, I'd done a lot of studying on the game, like a hell of a lot. Literally, where you're marking, where every goal's gone in from that weekend and how it's come and whether they're left foot, right foot. I think studying it is going to play a major part in that. But yeah, you just got to work out what you believe in and what suits you. And if you're, especially at more the pro clubs I work with, where we go in training sessions and the lads would just parry balls to the side, which would technically in a game be a corner.
Yeah.
And you're like, but if we're training that here, you're naturally going to be offering that up in a game.
Yeah.
No, but I'd catch that in a game. No, what we're going to do here is what you're going to offer up there.
Yeah.
100%. So, it's a case of, look, just keep reminding yourself that you're in when you say fear again, it would be yourself talking yourself into not doing something.
Yeah.
Training sessions are fantastic environments.
Yeah.
And we don't take advantage of them enough. Where you go, let's experiment.
Yeah.
Let's play around with a few things.
Yeah.
And again, Wickham and early days of Fulham, we played around with so much stuff. Like so much. And even looking back at, working with Ben Roberts at Charlton, he would do, volleys with a goalie coach, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like completely out of nowhere, he'd volley one, and he would just punch it.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a Mickey take for, say, your continental goalies coming over, because they're punching everything.
Yeah.
But he was thinking about it, and that was the main thing he was thinking about. Why do they do that? So again, there's no right and wrong way with it. I think if you can secure the ball, fantastic.
Yeah.
What an opportunity you've got for your team. You hold possession. You're now in control of that game for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a what you believe in, But kids do it a lot where they'll just push the ball down.
Yeah.
And they'll push it right into the middle of the goal.
Yeah.
You think, right, what would happen? They go, I'd come and score that.
Yeah.
So you put them in as rebounders, they start scoring, and the goalie goes, right, I don't think I can leave that there.
Yeah.
So manage it. I don't tell them the answers, manage it. What you're going to do? You're even now going to try and catch. And my message to the kids, especially the young ones, are, if you drop the ball, I couldn't give a monkeys in a training session.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Because if you don't try, it's never going to work.
No, yeah.
So, and the people that have been listening to this, if you have been a goalie, you kind of know when you ain't going to catch the ball.
Yeah.
And you're just going to open your hands up and you're going to parry it wide.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big believer of try to, especially in training, as much as you can.
Obviously, I mean, sometimes it's keep it simple, like this is called keeping it out of the net, because that's ultimately what the job of a goalkeeper is. And you said the other week, just think of it as catching a ball when you're younger, it's not complicated. But equally, it's good to know certain techniques and stuff, and if you don't know them, that might limit you. Like, for instance, two things I've learned how important to be good at them is kicking and crossing.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that's what makes goalkeepers stand out. But if you want to play at a certain level, you kind of have to be at a certain level, otherwise you're not fit for that level. And obviously, if you've been in an academy, you've probably done lots of kicking over the years, same with crossing. But with crossing, I found it quite interesting, two things you said. You said about being more patient and watching the ball as opposed to being sort of edgy and over timing it, and then attacking that ball when you do get to it.
Yeah.
And then kicking, especially like out your hands, it's kind of, leaving the ball out as long as possible, because otherwise you're gonna catch it and it's gonna spin, and that's not really a reflection of how good you are. So it's just them little things.
Yeah.
Are there any other little things in terms of techniques that you're really big on in terms of other aspects of the game?
No, there's a bit. I think there's a big debate with like 1v1s.
Mm.
I think there's a massive debate with that, whether you go into like that block shape or whether you go into like a spread shape.
Yeah.
I've always been a massive believer more of a block
Yeah.
than a spread. I think with a spread, it's very much a last resort thing.
Yeah.
And I believe and my beliefs have worked on experiences of witnessing it going up the levels. That when you start to go into more of a spread, the higher up you go, the players become a bit more intelligent. They half see what you're going into. You know, they turn into different areas. So the block save and the spread save is something I'm quite
Is it the
obsessed
same
by.
with scooping the ball up? Like you want the barrier or you know barrier? Is it you're very big on having that?
Yeah, I mean the first time I witnessed that, I was at Tottenham doing the under 18s, and there was a goalkeeper, Oscar Jansson, Swedish goalie. He and his legs were wide open, you know, and the hands were going underneath.
Yeah.
And Perry Sacklin was the other goalie coach at the time. Perry been there, he's still there now. And I spoke to him about it, and I went, "What would you do in this situation?" He's like, "Look, they've been taught that since they were like 6.
Yeah.
So that to them is the way it works.
It's like the Danish catch. Like,
Completely, yeah. So my message to the kids are, look, it's kind of like driving a car. You know, you can drive the car, you choose to get insurance or not get insurance. If you don't get insurance, you're taking a risk.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
You know, you can drive without insurance, but it's a risk. So you take the insurance knowing just in case. And my insurance is if you bring your knee across, you've got a second barrier behind it.
Yeah.
So for me, people will say, oh, because of this technique and that technique. That's cool, but the simplicity behind it is if you've got an object behind your hands and you just don't stop the ball with your hands, it hits the object behind.
Yeah.
And that's where I've always seen
Body
it.
behind the ball.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to lean into things and not get your feet across it. People are quite big on that, so it's just training it. But being a goalkeeper is about being effective. It's not, like you say, there's no right or wrong.
Completely.
It's just about being effective. It doesn't have to look pretty, as they say. Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. On every residential I've ever done, the message on there is there's no rights and wrongs in goalkeeping.
Yeah.
And anyone that tells you different, I think, is not that open-minded.
Yeah, it's what's right for you, like what works for you.
Completely.
In that moment.
Yeah. And I've always used this. You know, if you look at like Hugo Lloris, if he's got a shot from say 25 yards out, the likelihood is he's probably a yard off his line.
Yeah.
If you remember Leo Gomez at Watford, who was at Tottenham PSV, the same shot, he's going to be like 7 yards out.
Yeah.
So you're going, but one of them's got to be right and wrong.
Yeah.
But they're both millionaires, they both play in the Premier League, both play for the country.
Yeah.
So you tell me what one's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because everyone will have different philosophies. But for me, whatever works for one, whatever it works for, it works for.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in rights and wrongs.
No.
Never have.
Who is someone you would say right now at the top level, you'd say worth watching that's maybe up and coming, or who's at the very top of their career, worth studying as a young goalkeeper?
I was really lucky to work with Tommy, and then obviously you're not playing at the minute. I loved nearly everything about him.
Yeah.
Like his mannerisms, his professionalisms, his techniques. You know, if you watch his pickups, the way he does pickups is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
He looks like the golf pro on the range, just like casually hitting balls, not even looking, and they're going 400 yards straight. I think Ramsdale is obviously a goalie at the minute that's being really highlighted. I hope the press stay away from him, which probably isn't going to happen.
No.
He's going to make a couple of mistakes. At some point, he's going to make a really bad mistake.
Yeah.
Do everyone then jump on him like the Joe Hart situation? Joe Hart don't turn bad overnight.
No.
I think it's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic goalie. He always has been. He always will be. So for me, I think Ramsdale is probably if we're talking younger goalies, Ramsdale's probably the one to look at in the minute. I think
that's the beauty. I think as well. I think because I'm a West Ham fan, Joe Hart went there.
Yeah.
It's comforting sometimes seeing that even the pros make mistakes.
Yeah.
And because sometimes you just see the TV stuff. If you go and watch games, you actually see the stuff you don't see on TV, and you realise they're human. They make mistakes. Like you say, if you can go to the non-league even more, you're going to see that even more so.
Yeah.
But just to wrap it up in terms of if there's anything we've not said or any like parting advice you give to a young goalkeeper or a late teenager or even someone who's maybe in the last few years of their career and they just want to go to that next level, what would your advice be to them right now?
I think the last one you said about the older goalies maybe coming more towards the end. What can you learn? What else can you learn? You know, and some guys go, right, I've had a goalie coach for 30 years, I'm not changing. That's brilliant. Yeah. But, you know, wouldn't it be nice to just venture and see what the guy next door's got to offer? Yeah. But I think my advice for them is to try and educate yourself more. Get out of a training habit of just doing the same stuff. Yeah. Because I think we, as humans, we do get into that. I'm comfortable. How many times we've been on a holiday in Turkey? Like 8 times. And you think, really, you don't live long enough. We should be going different places and experiencing it. But we go back to that same place because we know it. Yeah. It's the same with like a goalie warm-up. No, I'm not going to tweak it. I've done this for 20 years. Yeah, but why not tweak it? Yeah. Why not play around with it? So I think it's not too late to play around with. You know, you're sort of 20-year-olds, that sort of level, same thing. Watch goalies, take stuff from other goalies that you like and put it into your game. Yeah. Try not to be too obsessed with the training session. Try and be the business end goalie. Try and be a match goalie and not training goalie. Yeah. I've worked with so many training ground goalies in the past that have come in on trial and stuff, and they look great in training because they're so focused on training all the time, and they've lost sight on where they're actually going to be judged. Yeah. The business end is performing in the game. Yeah. You know, with Nicky Bort Wickham, you know, in training he was just whatever. He was the best goalie in the league on a match day by a mile. You know. And the manager accepted that, so we went with it. Yeah. And the younger goalies, I think to be able to experiment with your goalkeeping is absolutely vital. Yeah. And to all 3 of them categories, if you don't back yourself, you need to really ask yourself the question of why you're doing it. Yeah. You've got to back yourself, and that don't mean going on social media and showing everyone the save you made at the weekend. It's that inner self-belief to go, do you know what? Yes, I'm going to accept I make mistakes. Yes, inside I'm going to laugh it off, and I'm going to move on quick. Yeah. Because like you just said, top level, they make mistakes. Yeah. So you're going to as well. Yeah. So embrace the mistakes and look first of all at the thing that you might have done better, and then make a massive list of all the things you've done really, really well. Yeah. Like really well. Yeah. You know, there should be 1 or 2 things to work on. 15, 20 things you've done outstanding on. Yeah. Not the other way around. Yeah. That's my opinion on it.
I think that's interesting. Just the last thing I think you said about trying new things. I mean, I'm doing your 3-day thing in June, and that's something I've never done, so I thought it's worth doing. It's immersion training, really. It's getting immersed in goalkeeping, on the pitch, off the pitch, getting around people. That's key as well. I've learned that from the group sessions, that you can do one-on-one sessions or just club training. Yeah. But there's a different dynamic when you're in that goalkeeping union. But how can people find you if they want to find you in terms of podcasts, YouTube videos, or your website? Where's the best place to find you?
2 things. We've got developinggoalkeepinguk.com. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with, you know, your weekly stuff and the residential stuff. And then the podcast is developinggoalkeeping.com. Okay. That's going to be your podcast, your online course that we offer, the nationals, which is a massive event that we're putting together. So they're the two main websites.
And how did the partnership with Glasgow come across? I'm just curious.
So Paul used to work at All Sport. Okay. So Paul used to run All Sport UK. Yeah. I met him there. We built up a lovely relationship there, where, you know, he would help sponsor some of the events through All Sport. And after a couple of years of knowing each other, we went, listen, eventually one day we're going to be able to have a free rein and do exactly what we want to do. Yeah. I veered off and done my own stuff. Paul then came up with the idea of glove glue, of which has obviously gone crazy. Yeah. He left All Sport. He now runs that on his own. He now runs glove glue on his own. Yeah. He's got people working with him, but it is his business. And we went, right, it's time. Yeah. Let's get together. Let's sort out the podcast. Let's sort out the nationals. The camp, the TikToks. He's on me every day with TikToks. Yeah. I'm not a massive one on social media, he's on me about, we want to get more TikToks out, which has been good. He's a fantastic guy, just heavily involved in goalkeeping, loves his goalkeeping, and just went from there really. Yeah, that's great, and I think people can take so much value from that in that short space of time. But if you did enjoy it, do give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, and once again, Martin, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Martin.
Mate.